Hello folks, welcome back. This is Chris in Central Pennsylvania. The murder of Glenn and Vida Rafferty in August of 2020 in KwaZulu-Natal near their farm in Normandy was a particularly brutal event, one that evoked lots of emotion and eventually a protest. That protest, of course, is the video that President Trump showed part of his video montage in the Oval Office during Ramaphosa's disastrous visit to the White House.
Now this is very bad. These are burial sites right here. Burial sites. Over 1,000 of white farmers.
Now, in response to this, when a conviction occurred a year later, which is what Mkhunu, the police minister, is now saying, rubbishes the concept that nothing is done about farm murders. He's saying that they prosecuted this case and put someone in jail a year later for 25 years. That's not justice for taking someone's life in such a brutal fashion. Death or life imprisonment is a punishment, but not 25 years, which of course will be reduced to a ridiculously low number, and the person will be out of jail shortly after that. Now, the video that President Trump showed in the Oval Office during that disastrous attempt to bribe U.S. officials with Starlink was, as I said, a memorial in response. Now, the following video you're going to watch is a report that I filed a year after they were brutally murdered during the lockdown scam, when barbers were still closed and I couldn't get a haircut, which you will easily notice in this video. So I appreciate keeping your comments about my crazy hair under control. We couldn't use barbers. It was lockdown. You'll notice if you watch the entire video, towards the end, I offer recommendations on how to stop this heinous activity and also point out that hashtag the world must know about what's happening in South Africa. This video had just 1,400 views when I first published it and just 134 likes and 1 dislike, showing you just how little attention I was able to garner for this issue 4 years ago. Now the world is watching South Africa. What will the ANC do? Will they continue to try to transactionally bribe Elon Musk and Donald Trump to get foreign direct investment while neglecting the horrible things that are happening in South Africa? Let's wait and see. And what follows now is the video I recorded 4 years ago. Thank you for your patronage. God bless.
All right, let's go back to our earlier story then regarding the farming community of Normandy near Newcastle in northern KwaZulu-Natal, which has been shocked by the killing of a farming couple, Glenn and Vida Rafferty. The husband and wife were shot dead as they entered their home on Saturday night after visiting friends. The incident comes as bikers around the country join hands in protest.
Hello folks, once again this is Chris with Indaba Africa, and a small degree of justice in the never-ending saga of farm murders in South Africa, rural farm murders plus moord in South Africa. As a 33-year-old suspect is convicted, pleads guilty and is convicted and sentenced to 25 years, a small degree of justice. This is in reference to the brutal murders on the 29th of August 2020 on the Normandian farm of Glenn and Vida Rafferty. Glenn, a 63-year-old, and Vida, a 60-year-old, were incredibly popular throughout KwaZulu-Natal and considered a very progressive couple. They were brutally murdered, shot, along with their dog, on their farm on the 29th of August. This one got a lot of attention, massive protest of farmers showing up on roads, blocking roads and traffic. It was quite a significant event and shocked rural KwaZulu-Natal. Now, on the 21st of September, as this got going, a 29-year-old had been accused of the killings on that farm. His name was Siyabonga Maku. He faced 2 charges of murder and robbery. On the 18th of November, Police Minister Beckett Seeley, under a lot of pressure just days before Brockenfell and nearly a month after the events at Senegal on the 6th of October and 16th of October, on the 18th of November, he said that 4 people had already been put in custody. This is what Beckett Seeley had to say on the 18th of November. In Normandy, you know, there are more people have been arrested now. When we went there, there was 1 person. Now 4 more have been arrested. So he claimed the total 5 people have been arrested. It's a little bit confusing, but we do have the first conviction in this brutal double homicide. The 33-year-old convicted murderer, Sizwe Telzwane, was convicted and sentenced on Wednesday, the 3rd of March, 2021. Now, KwaZulu-Natal's acting provincial commissioner, Major General Tulani Gonya, welcomed the sentencing. He said, "We wish to commend the investigating officers who have painstakingly investigating this case since August last year. They've continued to persevere and remain committed to ensuring that all the perpetrators are eventually behind bars. Well, indeed. Let's hope that continues. He was arrested by detectives on the 14th of February, this after having committed the murders back in August, the end of August. He was the third person arrested in connection, according to most recent information available. Not 4, not 5, so 3, a bit confusing. But on Wednesday, the 3rd of March, he pled guilty at the Pietermaritzburg High Court and was convicted accordingly. Now, I say some small measure of justice because he was convicted and sentenced to 10 years imprisonment for robbery and 25 years imprisonment each on both counts of murder for Glenn and Vida. But he will serve his sentences concurrently. That is a travesty of justice. That is a disgrace, and it's an insult to the memory of Glenn and Vida Rafferty, as well as a piss-poor deterrence to future slimeball murderers. With a 25-year sentence, he will be out of prison at the age of 58, just shy of the age at which he brutally murdered Vida Rafferty. So he gets another shot at life after prison. Glenn and Vida Rafferty have no life. Their life was taken prematurely by this disgusting, vile murderer. And for what? For what? Virtually nothing was taken. Listen to this SABC news report at the time this occurred and what was said about this attack.
Well, obviously, I am still at the crime scene. Special forces have been sent to the scene by our KZN commissioner to come to the scene. They are present at the moment. It's a senseless killing of our people. I mean, as I say, nothing was stolen except the camera system that recorded the people and what actually happened at the scene. It's a very senseless killing. As I say, there's nothing being taken. There was money in possession of the couple that was lying on the scene when we got here this morning. The firearms are all still intact in the safe. The safe keys were lying on the scene too. So very senseless killing of an uncle of mine and a neighbor.
You say he's an uncle of yours. Do you then have, I suppose, information that we might not have had regarding whether or not there were any threats to the couple's lives that perhaps are of significance that you're able perhaps to share with us, of course, without putting the case into any kind of jeopardy at this time?
No, I'm not aware of any threats. Glenn and Vida are both the people that are not fighting. Glenn was a very, very soft person. He never spoke hard. His Labour are sitting here in front of me in tears, wanting to know where their next meal's going to come from.
The ruling African National Congress, the economic freedom fighters, in particular their leadership, as well as black nationalists, tend to look at the issue of rural insecurity, murder, assaults on farm workers and farmers as a trivial matter. It is not a trivial matter. In the instance of the murders of Glenn and Vida Rafferty, there was in fact a great outpouring of anger at what had happened. Now, these are quotes from when this occurred in late August. Newcastle Mayor Dr. Ntuko Malaba was saddened and shocked by the unprovoked killing of Glenn and Vida. He had this to say at the time. Glenn Rafferty and his wife were progressive people who cared deeply for the community of Newcastle. They were both affectionately loved and admired for their contribution towards the betterment of our society. Glenn and Vida understood the culture and tradition of our municipality. Their untimely deaths are a huge loss for our community and the farming fraternity in particular. The killing of farmers and their workers should be denounced with the contempt that it deserves at all times. I urge anyone with information which might lead to the arrest of the suspects to contact their nearest police station immediately. Those are the words of Newcastle Mayor Dr. Ntuko Malaba back in late August, early September. He called upon law enforcement agencies to apprehend the perpetrators as soon as possible. And as you can see, there's been a long investigation. Now we have one conviction with hopefully more to come. Newcastle Growth Coalition Chairperson Johan Peters had the following to say. The barbaric act to shoot and kill two innocent people as they arrive at their farm is unacceptable and cannot be allowed. We understand that no valuables were stolen. The car the attacker stole from the deceased couple was found between Newcastle and Ladysmith. We cannot tolerate this in our community and South Africa. We echo the words of the mayor of Newcastle that all available resources must be used to catch the murderers. And finally, these comments, which came from the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal, Sile Zikalala back at the time that this occurred last year. Farm killings remain a serious concern in the province. We condemn this murder in the strongest terms possible. The ongoing killing of farmers goes against the spirit of Ubuntu. It is an indictment on the significant contribution made by the farming community in the upliftment of our rural people. Well said. You can see there was universal condemnation of this, except from the quarters of senior African National Congress leadership, the economic freedom fighters, or black nationalists. One should not be surprised, as one can't help but think that they sit in glee when South Africans are murdered in the rural communities. In 2020, the sad legacy of rural insecurity in South Africa continued with 382 farm attacks. Now, that's reported ones. This is down from 2019 when there were 511. But bear in mind that there was a nationwide lockdown in which people virtually weren't allowed to leave their homes from the 27th of March until late June. In July, actually. And we start seeing in July these farm attacks pick up. The distressing part about this is that a reported 45 murders took place on farms in 2019, but that number, with people locked in for much of the year, climbed to 63 in 2020. Sadly, the brutal double homicide of Glenn and Vida Rafferty were two of the murders of those 63, 15 of which occurred in KwaZulu-Natal. The killing fields of South Africa, ladies and gentlemen, an issue overlooked by the world. Hashtag the world must know. The world must know what is going on in South Africa because the government of South Africa doesn't give a flying flip. Don't pay any attention to this conviction. Appreciate the fact that law enforcement did a great investigation. They pursued this. They never gave up on it. And someone's being brought to a mild degree of justice. With South Africa lacking the death penalty, this gentleman will get just 25 years in prison for robbery and a double homicide. 25 years. And then he'll be out. Hardly the full measure of justice. But that is the situation in South Africa, ladies and gentlemen. Hashtag the world must know. The world must know about the horrors that are taking place in South Africa. Now, this isn't in isolation. An average of 60 South Africans are murdered each and every day. Many of them, women, raped, gang raped, murdered during gender-based violence as well. The casual disregard for the sanctity and value of human life in South Africa is quite distressing for any Homo sapien with even a modicum of moral justice in their mind. It's time, long past time, I should say, for the African National Congress to properly fund, equip, and support the South African Police Service, to develop forensic capabilities, to take the Ministry of Injustice and turn it into the Ministry of Justice to get justice for the victims of these violent criminals in South Africa. In the meantime, a mild measure of justice in the sad and reprehensible murder of Glenn and Vida Rafferty. Well, folks, if you're not a subscriber to Chris Wyatt Africa, why don't you take a moment? We bring you updates about these events in South Africa, across Africa, and even events here in the United States, whether it's related to politics, rugby, economics, culture, language. Take your pick. Become a subscriber. Or if you see this on Odyssey or Rumble, become a follower there. Give us a like here on YouTube and give us a Rumble on Rumble and give us a little light that fire on Odyssey. We do appreciate support because your support makes this worth continuing, trying to get the word out about what is happening, in this case, in South Africa. Take care.